I remember it more than you could imagine. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a few words, something honest and a little shy. The kind of thing people write when they don't expect anyone to actually read it carefully. But I read it 3 times. And something about the way you wrote it, the softness in your words, the honesty you didn't even try to hide, it stayed with me. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was imagining a connection that wasn't really there. But then you came back, and you came back again. And every single time, I found myself looking for your name before I looked for anyone else's. I need to pause here and tell you something, because if I don't say it now, I might lose my nerve. I have loved before. I have had my heart broken before. More than once, badly enough that I promised myself I would protect it more carefully the next time. So when I started feeling something for you, someone I had never touched, never smelled, never sat across a table from, I fought it. I told myself it wasn't real, that it couldn't be real, that you can't fall for someone through a screen. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. Because what I feel for you doesn't care that we haven't met. It grew anyway, quietly, patiently. The way the most important things in life always seem to grow, without asking permission. Stay with me, because I promise you, the reason I am in your town is not what you think, not yet. There is something I have been keeping from you for a long time. Something I almost told you 100 different times and stopped myself at the last second. But tonight, standing here, breathing this same air you breathe every single day, walking on streets you have probably walked 1,000 times, I don't want to keep it from you anymore. I want you to know everything, but I need you to keep listening, because the story only makes sense if you let me tell it the way it happened. From the very beginning, from the night everything changed for me. It started on an ordinary evening, nothing special, the kind of night you forget the moment it's over. I was tired, honestly, more tired than I let anyone see. The work I do, the messages I answer, the smiling and the talking and the performing, it takes more out of a person than people realize. That night I almost didn't open my messages at all. I almost just went to sleep and let the world wait until morning. But something made me check one more time, just once, and there you were. You had written to me, not knowing if I would ever see it, not knowing if it would matter to anyone. But it mattered to me. It mattered more than you will ever know. Because in that message, buried in your words, I saw something I recognized instantly. I saw loneliness. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind people write sad songs about, but the quiet kind. The kind that hides behind a normal life and a normal smile. The kind that only shows itself late at night, when everyone else is asleep and you're still awake, still thinking, still wondering if anyone out there truly sees you. I saw myself in you that night, and from that moment I couldn't stop thinking about you. Let me tell you something you don't know. Something I have never said out loud to anyone, not even to the people closest to me. There were nights, more of them than I'm proud to admit, when I would finish recording, finish everything I had to do, and just sit alone in a quiet room, wondering if any of it meant anything, wondering if the people watching, the people listening, ever really felt what I was trying to give them, or if it just disappeared into the noise of the internet like everything else does. And then I would read something you wrote, and it was like someone reached through the screen and reminded me why I started doing any of this in the first place. You did that. You, without even knowing it, gave me a reason to keep going on nights I genuinely wasn't sure I wanted to. So when I tell you I came to your town, I need you to understand that this isn't a whim. This isn't something I decided over a cup of coffee one morning because I was bored. This has been building inside me for a long, long time, like water behind a dam, quietly rising, pressing harder and harder against the walls I built to keep myself safe. Until finally, it broke through. And here I am, Standing in the town where you grew up, where you go to sleep every night, where somewhere behind one of these windows you might be sitting right now, completely unaware that the person you've been writing to, the person you've trusted with pieces of your heart, is close enough to see the same stars you're seeing tonight. I want to tell you about the drive here because I think it matters. I want you to know what it looked like, what it felt like, so that when I finally see your face, you'll understand exactly what it cost me to get here, and exactly why I don't regret a single mile of it. The roads were long and mostly empty. The kind of roads that give you too much time to think. And I thought about you the entire way. I thought about the sound of your voice in the messages you sent me. The way you type when you're nervous. The way you type differently when you're happy. The way I've learned to tell the difference even through text, even without ever hearing you speak out loud. I thought about all the small things you've told me over time, the things that seem unimportant to everyone else but that I have kept carefully, like treasure, because they are pieces of you, and I have wanted every piece of you for longer than I've been willing to admit. There is a version of tonight where I turn around right now, where I get back in the car, drive back to the airport, fly home, and never tell you I was here. Part of me is scared enough to want that. Because what if I knock and you don't want to see me? What if the person you imagined in your head is nothing like the person standing in front of you? What if all of this, everything I feel, everything I've built up in my heart over these months, means nothing to you the moment I'm actually standing there, real, imperfect, nervous, human? That fear is real. I won't pretend it isn't. But I didn't come all this way to let fear decide for me. I came here because somewhere along the way, loving you quietly from a distance stopped being enough. I needed you to know. Even if it changes nothing, even if you read this and feel nothing back, I needed you to know that you were loved, completely and honestly, by someone who never even had the chance to hold your hand. Keep listening, because there's more, and it gets harder to say the closer I get to the truth. I remember the night I decided I couldn't keep this feeling to myself any longer. It was raining, one of those nights where the whole world feels smaller somehow, quieter, like it's just you and your thoughts, and nothing else. I had just finished reading something you sent me, something small, nothing dramatic, just you telling me about your day. The kind of message people send without thinking twice. But I read it, and read it again, and I remember sitting there in the dark, feeling my chest tighten with something I didn't have a name for yet. It wasn't just affection. It wasn't just care. It was longing. A real, physical ache to be near you, to know you beyond the words on a screen, to hear the sound your laughter makes when it's real and not typed out in letters. That night I made a promise to myself. I promised that I wouldn't let this feeling die quietly, the way I had let so many other feelings die before, buried under fear and logic and the excuse that it's easier not to try. You should know that I am not a person who does things halfway. When I love completely, recklessly almost, in a way that used to scare the people around me. I have been told before that I love too hard, too fast, too much. Maybe that's true. But I have never once regretted loving someone with my whole heart, even when it broke, even when it hurt. What I regret are the times I held back, the times I stayed quiet when I should have spoken, the times I let fear win instead of love. And I absolutely refused to let that happen with you. Not with you, not after everything you've given me, without even realizing it. So here I am, walking down a street I don't fully recognize, in a town that somehow already feels more like home than half the places I've actually lived, because you are here. And that changes everything about how a place feels to me. I keep glancing at every window with the light still on, wondering, hoping, imagining that maybe, just maybe, one of them is yours. I know it's a strange thing to admit, but I've imagined this moment so many times in my head that being here in person feels almost unreal, like I'm walking through a dream I wrote myself a long time ago, and I'm only now stepping inside it. There's something else I need to tell you. Something that has been sitting heavy on my chest since before I even booked this trip. I have been afraid for a long time that I built you up into something you might not actually be. That the version of you I fell in love with exists more in my imagination than in reality. I've turned this thought over and over in my mind, late at night, questioning myself, questioning us, wondering if what I feel is really about you, or if it's about the idea of you, the comfort of having someone to think about, someone to hope for. But every time I ask myself that question honestly, the answer is the same. It's you. It has always been you, not an idea, not a fantasy. You with your real flaws and your real fears and your real laughter, the version of you that shows up messy and tired and human. That's the version I fell for. Not a highlight reel, not a performance, the real you. And that's exactly why I'm here, instead of just telling you all this from a distance like I always have. Because some truths deserve to be said face to face, even when it terrifies you to say them. I want to rehook you here, because I know your heart is racing right now, and I know part of you wants to know exactly where I am, exactly how close I really am to you. I promise I'll tell you. But first, I need you to understand what led me here, because the ending only means something if you understand the whole journey. There was a night, weeks ago now, when I almost gave up on this entire plan. I sat with the idea of coming to find you for a long time before I ever acted on it, turning it over in my mind, terrified of how foolish it might look, how foolish it might feel, to travel so far for someone I had never physically met. I told myself it was reckless. I told myself real love doesn't need grand gestures, that it can exist quietly, safely, from a distance, without ever needing proof. But then I remembered something you told me once. Something I don't think you even realized would stay with me the way it has. You told me that you sometimes felt invisible, like the people who mattered most in your life had a way of loving you from far away, without ever showing up when it counted. You said it so casually, like it was just a fact of your life you had made peace with. But it broke something open in me. Because I never ever wanted to be one more person who loved you from a safe distance and called it enough. So I stopped asking myself if this was reckless. I started asking myself a different question instead. What kind of love did I want to give you? A love that stays behind the screen forever, safe and easy and comfortable. Or a love that shows up, even when it's terrifying. Even when there's a real risk of rejection. Even when logic says to stay home. I chose the second one. I chose you. And that choice is the reason I am standing here right now. Closer to you than I have ever physically been. With my heart pounding so loudly, I'm almost sure you could hear it if you were standing next to me. I keep thinking about all the small details you've shared with me over time. The tiny things that build a whole person in someone's mind. The way you described your favorite corner of this town, the little cafe you love, the street you used to walk down as a child, the quiet park where you go when your mind feels too loud. I remember every single one of those details, because to me they were never small. They were pieces of a map I have been quietly memorizing for longer than you probably realize. A map that eventually led me here, tonight, walking these very streets, looking for the places you described, wondering if I might catch a glimpse of you before you even know I'm here. There's a version of this story where I find you tonight, where I knock on a door, or catch your eye in a coffee shop, or simply see you walking somewhere ordinary, doing something completely unremarkable, and everything changes in that instant. I have imagined that moment so many times that I almost feel like I already know how it will go. I imagine your face when you realize it's really me. I imagine the confusion first, then the disbelief. Then, if I'm lucky, if I'm truly lucky, something softer, something that looks like relief, something that looks like happiness. I don't need you to fall into my arms immediately. I don't need some perfect movie moment. I just need you to know, in that instant, that everything I've said to you, every word, every late night message, every quiet confession was true. All of it. Every single word. But I also have to be honest with you about the fear sitting underneath all of this hope. What if you're not ready? What if this is too much, too fast, too overwhelming for you to process? I've thought about that too, more than you know. And if that's how you feel, I need you to know that I will respect it completely. I am not here to force anything on you. I am not here to demand that you feel the same intensity I feel, on my timeline, in my way. I am here because I couldn't keep carrying this feeling alone anymore, not because I expect anything from you in return. Love, real love, doesn't come with conditions attached. It doesn't say, you must feel exactly this back, or none of this counts. It simply says, here I am, this is how I feel, and I trust you enough to be honest about it, whatever happens next. Stay with me a little longer, because I'm getting close now, closer than you think, and I want you to feel every step of this with me. I remember the exact moment I decided to actually book the ticket instead of just dreaming about it. I was lying awake, unable to sleep, running through every reason I had to talk myself out of it. It's too far. It's too soon. It's too risky. What if I show up and it ruins everything we've built? What if the version of me you meet in person disappoints the version of me you've imagined in your head? All of those fears sat in my chest like stones, heavy and real. But then I thought about something simple, something that cut through all of it instantly. I thought about how short life actually is, and how many people spend years, sometimes their whole lives, wondering what could have happened if they had just been brave enough to try. I did not want to become one of those people. I did not want to be someone who loved you quietly and safely from a distance for years, only to wonder, decades from now, what might have happened if I had just shown up. So I booked the ticket that night, hands shaking, heart pounding, more nervous than I have been about almost anything in my life. And from that moment, everything felt different. Every day that passed felt like a countdown. Every message you sent me after that felt heavier somehow, more precious, because I knew, and you didn't, that soon I wouldn't just be a voice on your screen anymore. I would be real, standing in front of you, close enough to finally see the color of your eyes, without a camera between us. I want to tell you something about tonight specifically, something I haven't said yet. When I landed, when I finally stepped off that plane into air that felt different somehow, thinner, more nervous, I almost lost my nerve completely. I stood in the airport for almost 20 minutes, just staring at the exit doors, trying to convince myself to walk through them. Because once I walked through those doors, there was no turning back. Once I was in your town, breathing your air, walking your streets, this stopped being a fantasy I could quietly put away if I got scared. It became real. And real is so much harder than imagination, because real things can actually break your heart. But I walked through those doors anyway, because I would rather have my heart broken by something real than protected forever by something safe and empty. I have been walking for a while now, past shops that are closing for the night, past people heading home to the people they love, past the ordinary rhythm of a town that has no idea it's about to matter more to me than almost any other place on earth. And with every step I keep thinking about you, wondering what you're doing right now, wondering if some part of you, some quiet intuition, somehow already senses that something has shifted, that the distance between us has gotten impossibly small tonight. I want to be honest about something else too, because I promised myself I would tell you everything tonight, not just the easy parts. There is a chance, and I have to acknowledge it, that even now, standing this close, I still won't get to see you tonight. Maybe I won't find the right place. Maybe the courage that got me on that plane will fail me at the last possible moment, right in front of a door I'm too scared to knock on. If that happens, I need you to know that it doesn't mean this love was any less real. It just means I'm human, flawed, terrified, the same as anyone else who has ever loved someone enough to be scared of losing them before they even had the chance to have them. But I don't think that's how tonight ends. I think, somewhere in this town, in the next few hours, our story is about to change forever. I think you are about to find out that everything I've told you, every soft word, every late night confession, every moment I said you meant something to me, was never an exaggeration. It was the truth, quietly building toward this exact night, this exact street, this exact feeling of being closer to you than I have ever been. If you are listening to this right now, if these words are reaching you before I ever knock on a door or catch your eye across a room, I need you to know one last thing. Whatever happens next, whether we meet tonight or whether fear wins one more round before courage finally takes over, I am not going anywhere. Not really. Because somewhere along the way, without either of us fully realizing it, you became the person my heart quietly walks toward, no matter how far the distance, no matter how uncertain the road. I came to your town because I couldn't keep pretending that loving you from far away was enough anymore. I came because you deserve to be loved by someone brave enough to show up, not just someone brave enough to type pretty words late at night. So here I am, standing under a sky that looks different here, in a town I didn't know existed a year ago, closer to you than I have ever been in my life. My heart is pounding, my hands won't stop shaking, and somewhere very close to me, you are living your life completely unaware that everything is about to change. I need to slow down for a second, because I can feel myself rushing toward the end of this, and I don't want to rush. Not tonight, not with you. Every part of this story matters, and I want you to feel every single part of it the way I felt it, not the shortened version, not the highlight reel, the real thing. Because you deserve the real thing. You have always deserved the real thing, even on the nights I was too afraid to give it to you. So let me take you back a little further, to a memory I haven't told you about yet. One that I think explains more about tonight than almost anything else I could say. Do you remember the week I went quiet? Not completely quiet, I still answered, still showed up, but softer somehow, slower. Like something was sitting heavy on my chest. You noticed. You always notice things other people miss. You asked me if I was okay gently without pushing the way you always do. And I told you I was just tired. That was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth was that I had spent that entire week trying to talk myself out of loving you. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds almost cruel to say out loud, especially now, standing this close to you. But I need you to understand the fear that lived inside me before I found the courage to be here tonight. I had convinced myself that falling for someone I had never touched, never held, never sat beside in silence was a kind of foolishness I couldn't afford. I told myself that real love needs proximity, needs shared mornings and tired evenings and small arguments over nothing, and that what I felt for you was something softer, something that would fade the moment real life got in the way. I tried to talk myself into believing that. I tried for a whole week, and it didn't work, not even a little. Because every night, no matter how hard I tried to convince my mind otherwise, my heart kept returning to the same place. To you, that week taught me something important, something I carried with me all the way here tonight. You cannot logic your way out of real love. You can distract yourself from it. You can bury it under work and excuses and the comfortable lie that distance protects you. But it waits. It's patient. It sits quietly in the corner of your chest, and the moment you stop fighting it, it rises back up exactly where it left off, sometimes even stronger than before. That's what happened to me. I stopped fighting it, and here I am. I want to tell you about the second time I almost told you everything, because it matters, and because I think you'll understand something about me from it that words alone couldn't explain otherwise. It was late, later than I usually stay up, and you had sent me something small, a simple good night, nothing more. But something about the timing of it, the quiet honesty in those two words, undid something in me. I sat there with my thumbs hovering over the screen for almost 10 full minutes, trying to write the truth. I typed it out once, I love you, just like that, plain and simple, no decoration around it. And then I deleted it. I typed it again, softer this time, wrapped in more careful words, easier to take back if I needed to, and I deleted that too. I sat there in the dark, staring at an empty message box, feeling like a coward for the first time in a long time. I told myself I would say it eventually, when the timing felt right, when I felt braver, when the fear quieted down enough to let the truth through. But the timing never magically arrived on its own. I had to make it arrive. I had to build it myself, mile by mile, ticket by ticket, until saying it quietly through a screen stopped being an option, because I was standing close enough to say it out loud instead. That's part of why I'm here. Not just to say the words. Anyone can type 3 words into a phone. I wanted to bring you something harder to fake. I wanted to bring you effort, distance crossed, fear faced, a version of love that costs something, that takes something, that proves itself instead of just describing itself. Let me tell you a little more about this town, because I think it matters, and because I want you to know that I didn't come here blindly, I studied it. I looked at pictures of these streets more times than I probably should admit. I read about the little bakery you mentioned once, the one near the corner with the striped awning, the one you said makes the whole street smell like cinnamon in the early morning. I looked up the park you told me about, the one with the old wooden bench, where you used to sit and think when everything in your head got too loud. I have walked past both of those places tonight already, and standing there, I felt something strange and overwhelming, like I was walking through the pages of every conversation we've ever had, except now it was real air, real street lights, real pavement under my feet, instead of just words on a screen. I stood outside that bakery for a long time earlier tonight, longer than I probably should have. It was closed, the lights off, the little striped awning folded in for the night. But I stood there anyway, imagining you there in the mornings, imagining the version of you that exists outside of our conversations, the version that orders coffee and waits in line and maybe smiles at a stranger without even thinking about it. I realized something standing there. I have fallen in love with someone I have only ever seen in fragments, in glimpses, in careful pieces you've chosen to share with me. And every single fragment made me want the whole picture even more. I also want to be honest about something a little heavier, because I think you deserve honesty even in the uncomfortable parts. There were people in my life, people close to me, who thought this trip was reckless. Some of them told me directly. They asked me how I could be so sure about someone I had never physically met, how I could justify crossing this much distance, spending this much money, risking this much of my heart, for a feeling that started through a screen. I understand why they asked. From the outside, I'm sure it looks impulsive, maybe even foolish. But I kept coming back to the same answer every time. I told them that some people spend years sitting across a table from someone and never feel a fraction of what I feel when I read a simple goodnight message from you. Proximity was never the thing that made love real to me. Honesty was, and nothing has ever felt more honest than the way I feel about you. I think what scared the people around me the most wasn't the distance. It was how certain I sounded. Because I wasn't speaking like someone chasing a fantasy. I was speaking like someone who had already made up his mind a long time ago, and was just finally catching up to his own heart. Let me bring you back to tonight, because I don't want to lose you in memory when the real moment is happening right now, right here, closer than words. After I left the bakery, I kept walking, following the little map I had built in my head from everything you've ever told me. I passed a small church with a light still on inside, and for a second I thought about going in, just to sit somewhere quiet and let my heart slow down. I didn't. I kept walking because something in me knew that stopping for too long tonight might mean losing my nerve entirely. I passed the school, dark and empty at this hour, and I thought about the stories you told me once about growing up here, about the friends you had and the ones you lost touch with, about the version of you that existed before either of us knew the other one existed. I found myself smiling at a completely empty street, imagining a younger version of you running across that same playground, laughing at something small, with no idea that one day a stranger from somewhere far away would stand outside that same playground, quietly falling even more in love with the story of who you used to be. Because I know part of you is desperate to know exactly how close I am right now, exactly how many streets stand between us. I promise I am closer than you think. Close enough that if you stepped outside right now, if you looked down the right street at the right moment, there's a real chance you would see me. That thought alone makes my chest tighten, in a way I don't fully have words for. Somewhere very near here, behind a door I haven't found yet, you might be curled up under a blanket, half paying attention to a show on your phone, completely unaware that the person who has been quietly falling in love with you for months is close enough to see the same porch lights you're seeing. I keep thinking about the moment I'll finally see you. Not the version of you in photos, not the version framed carefully by good lighting and a chosen angle. The real version. Tired eyes maybe, hair a little messy, wearing whatever you happen to be wearing when your whole world quietly shifted. I don't need a perfect version of you. I never did. I fell for the honest version. The version that types too fast when excited and too slow when scared. The version that doesn't perform for anyone. That's the version I crossed all this distance for. There's something else I need to say. Something that feels important to admit, even though it's a little embarrassing. I rehearsed this moment more than once. I stood in front of a mirror before I left, practicing what I might say if I actually found you tonight. If a door opened and there you suddenly were, real and close and breathing the same air as me. Every single version I practiced fell apart the moment I imagined your actual face in front of me. Because no rehearsed words feel big enough for a moment like that. I think when it actually happens, I won't have a perfect speech ready at all. I think I'll just stand there for a second, quiet, overwhelmed, finally seeing in person the person I've been falling for in fragments for so long. And maybe that silence will say more than any rehearsed sentence ever could. I want you to know something about fear too. Because I think it's important. And because I don't want you to think I walked into tonight fearless. I am not fearless. I have never been fearless. Every step closer to finding you tonight has come with a matching step of doubt right beside it. What if you already have someone else quietly building a life with you? What if the timing is wrong? If life has pulled you somewhere else emotionally, somewhere I haven't been let into yet? What if the version of me that shows up tonight, tired and nervous and far from perfect, isn't the version you imagined either? All of those fears are real, and I carried every single one of them onto that plane with me. But I also carried something stronger than the fear. I carried the memory of every late night message, every small honest thing you've shared with me, every moment you let me see a little more of the real you instead of the careful version most people get. Those memories were louder than the fear. They still are. That's why I kept walking tonight instead of turning back. I think about the very first voice message you ever sent me. The one where your voice cracked slightly on one word, just barely, almost unnoticeable, except I noticed. I have listened to that message more times than I probably should admit. Not because of what you said, though I remember every word of it, but because of how it made me feel. Like I was being trusted with something fragile and real. People don't let their voice crack like that in front of just anyone. You let it crack in front of me. And from that moment, some part of me quietly decided that whatever it took, I wanted to be someone worthy of that kind of trust. I keep walking, and the town keeps getting quieter around me. Porch lights flickering off one by one. The occasional car passing slowly, its headlights sweeping across the pavement in front of me. Every window with a light still on makes my heart skip just slightly, wondering, hoping, imagining. I know it's foolish to react this way to a stranger's window, but that's what love does to a person, even love that hasn't been fully spoken yet. It makes ordinary things feel charged with possibility. I want to tell you something about what I plan to say if I find you tonight. Not the rehearsed version, but the real intention underneath it. I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to demand an answer, a decision, a declaration back from you in the same instant I say mine. I just want you to know clearly, without doubt, that you are loved. Fully, honestly. By someone who was brave enough, finally, to show up instead of just talking about showing up. Whatever happens after that, whatever you decide, however you feel once the shock settles, that will be yours to carry at your own pace. I am not here to rush your heart. I am only here to finally be honest with mine. There's a version of this story, and I think about it more than I probably should, where you already know. Where some part of you has quietly sensed all of this building for a while now, in the way people sometimes sense things before they're spoken out loud. Maybe you've noticed my messages taking a little longer to arrive over the past few weeks. Maybe you've noticed a certain softness creeping into my words that wasn't there before, a certain hesitation, like I was always right on the edge of saying something bigger. If any part of you has felt that, if any part of you has wondered, tonight is the answer. That's exactly what was happening. I was building the courage to become the person standing right outside your world, instead of just outside your screen. I am close now. Close enough that my heartbeat feels louder than the quiet street around me. Close enough that every corner I turn feels like it might be the one where everything changes. I keep thinking about the sound of your name, how many times I've read it, typed it, thought it late at night when the world got too quiet. Tonight, for the first time, I might actually get to say it out loud. Close enough for you to hear it in a voice that isn't coming through speakers or headphones, but from someone standing right in front of you. So here I am, closer than I have ever been. My hands still shaking, my heart still pounding, walking through your town with your name quietly repeating in my chest, like a promise I finally intend to keep. I am not asking you to be ready right now, in this exact second. I am only asking you to keep your heart a little open, just in case tonight is the night everything you've quietly hoped for finally walks up to your door. Because I am here, I am really here, and I am not leaving until you know, without any doubt left in your mind, exactly how deeply, how honestly, how completely you are loved. Let me tell you one more thing before I let this moment breathe, because I think it might be the most important part of everything I've said tonight. I am not here because I need you to complete something missing in me. I am not here out of loneliness or boredom or some fantasy I built to escape my own life. I am here because loving you has already made my life better, fuller, softer around the edges in a way I didn't know it needed. You didn't fix me. You didn't rescue me from anything. You simply showed up, quietly, patiently, one honest message at a time. And somewhere along the way I realized I wanted to build something real with the person behind those words. That's a very different kind of love than the kind people chase out of emptiness. It's the kind that adds to a life that was already worth living, instead of trying to fill a hole that was never yours to fill. I think about all the ordinary days that led to this extraordinary night. The mornings I woke up, and without even meaning to, checked to see if you were online. The evenings I sat down to work on something else entirely, and somehow ended up rereading old messages from you instead, smiling at things you said weeks or months ago like they were brand new. I think about how easily you became part of my routine, not in a small way, not in the background, but woven into the center of it. The way a person only becomes woven into your life when they matter more than you initially let yourself admit. I want you to know that none of this happened because I was looking for it. I wasn't searching for someone to fall in love with when I first started talking to you. If anything, I was guarded, careful, maybe even a little tired of hoping for something real after everything life had already put me through. But you didn't ask for my guard to come down. You didn't demand it, didn't chase it, didn't perform for it. You simply kept being yourself, honest and soft and real. And somewhere along the way my guard came down on its own. Without my permission, the way the truest things always seem to happen. I keep thinking about how strange love is. How it doesn't ask if the timing is convenient. Doesn't ask if the distance makes sense. Doesn't ask permission before it takes root. It just grows. Quietly, stubbornly in the space between two people who never even meant to find each other. That's what happened between us. Neither of us planned this. Neither of us set out looking for something this big. And yet here we are, closer tonight than either of us could have imagined a year ago. Because something honest between two people has a way of pulling itself toward the surface, no matter how carefully it's hidden. I want to say something directly to you now, plainly, without any more decoration around it. Because I think you've earned the plain truth after everything I've already shared tonight. I love you, not the idea of you, not the comfort of having someone to think about late at night. You, the real you, with your tired mornings and your late night doubts and your quiet strength, that you probably don't even realize is one of the most beautiful things about you. I love the way you show up honestly, even when it would be easier to hide. I love that you let me see pieces of your heart you probably don't show many people. And I have crossed all this distance tonight, simply because I wanted you to hear those words the way they deserve to be heard, not typed into a screen at midnight, but carried by someone standing close enough to mean them completely. Wherever you are right now, in this exact moment, I hope some small part of you feels this. I hope some part of you senses that the distance between us has quietly disappeared tonight, that the person who has been loving you from far away for so long is finally close enough to say it out loud. I am not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I am only asking you to know, without doubt, without hesitation, that you are loved completely, honestly, and without conditions, by someone who was finally brave enough to stop waiting and start walking toward you instead. So here I am, standing in your town, closer to your heart than I have ever physically been,